All right, I wanted to talk about the long-awaited Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. A couple of other games I want to talk about and just Halloween stuff in general, so consider this like the Jake Halloween special thing. But the big thing is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. If you missed it, I did the game ranks before you buy for that, and I was pretty rough on the game. And I think generally most of the internet has been rough on the game, for good reason. We've been waiting for this game for a long time, and it released, and, you know, even with development hell and, you know, a change in development team, which is completely clear, all that aside, it's still not really the game that people wanted. It is not a good sequel to the original Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which was, in many ways, for a lot of people, like a CRPG classic at this point. That being said, that game was pretty busted when it dropped too, but it was still iconic, man. But unfortunately, Bloodlines 2 just is pales in comparison to the original game. In so many ways, it is a letdown. And yet, I still played it and I still enjoyed it. Now, you're going to think I'm absolutely crazy, so let me explain. But I'm not going to tell you to just go out and play it, go out and buy it, because it is not for most people. I would not recommend it to most people. Like, I would not recommend it to somebody who's like looking for a direct, like, good-ass RPG follow-up to Bloodlines. I wouldn't really recommend it to someone who's just looking for a cool vampire game, or someone just trying to spend $60 on this thing. From an RPG standpoint, it doesn't cut it. It has like the illusion of choice, and character building is very slight. From combat, it's got its moments, but it's kind of rough around the edges. Even you know, side quests and stuff, it doesn't really do a lot. And yet I still found a lot of appeal with this game, just the story it told. And I hate to fall back on the word, but just the vibes of it just happened to be exactly what I was into. It was like just what the doctor ordered for me personally, because it did a lot of things that appealed to me personally based on my gaming preferences from like decades ago, that, you know, I just found myself very hooked on it and I wanted to see where it would go. It's a weird game because like you can see the cracks and like you can see the stitches in a lot of places, right? Like you can tell that this was a game that had rebooted development, a changed development studio, maybe even a change in direction. And I found like kind of piecing all that together, like kind of this weird curiosity that I could not stop playing. And I mean, I'm like a Halloween person. I'm a vampire person. Like I like all this stuff, and I am happy to just have a vampire game. And I think the vampire stuff, it does pretty well. I can't speak to the World of Darkness over, you know, the whole lore that this is all based on. I am not one of those nerds, but from a vampire adventure that it was, you know, excited to teach me about the lore of this world, I got into it. All the different vampire clans, the distinct differences between them, the way these factions kind of, you know, played with each other and played against each other, and, you know, like essentially the politics and drama of it all, I liked learning about, and I just wanted to see it all unfold. Unfortunately, the character you create is kind of a bump on a log, and your agency or your decisions aren't as strong as I was hoping, even just in terms of like the character, the clan that you choose, like the vampire clan you go with. It's only slight distinctions. They pop up here and there, but ultimately you're still someone just running around, killing dudes, sucking blood, and jumping on rooftops. This game plays almost like a very, very light baby mode Dishonored, like a busted Dishonored, where Dishonored was this tightly crafted, tightly honed thing, perfectly designed. Bloodlines 2 is kind of just like a crazy, messy version of that. So yes, if you played the original, you know that it doesn't really play like that at all. I would even go as far as to say Bloodlines 2 is kind of like the original Deus Ex PC classic to Human Revolution, right? Where obviously I like Human Revolution. A lot of people like Human Revolution, but in terms of how it rebooted it and how it kind of cast aside some of the gameplay mechanics and how some of those gameplay mechanics are somewhat surface level, this game kind of does that too. It vaguely feels like an RPG where you pick your vampire clan and mess with vampire classes, right? It vaguely feels like it has some more CRPG elements or immersive sim elements, right? But ultimately, if you try sneaking sneaking around a lot and building into more of a sneaky character with some of your clan attributes, you still end up being forced into boss fights where you just got to do regular combat and stuff like that. So it's hit or miss in a lot of ways, but I liked the setup. You are this elder vampire, which explains why you have all these badass powers, right? But you awake in Seattle in an inexplicable snowstorm, and you have a voice in your head. It's another vampire. It's a dead vampire who doesn't have a lot of memories, and he's trying to figure out things too. So you have the voice of another vampire in your head along with you that's kind of helping you like be guided through this world. And also he's like a noir detective guy. And I like that. That character had a lot of appeal, and the world is steeped in noir, which I just did not expect. And I just found that to be a lot of fun, just, you know, seeing and experiencing all that. Sorry, my swords are itchy. The game has pacing issues. It has long parts where you're just wandering around the city back and forth to quest to quest to quest and mindless side quests. But when the game is good, when it does have more set piecey type levels and areas and moments, it's solid. Not to mention the fact that it does, to me, it had that vampire wish fulfillment where you're running around on rooftops. Like you can sprint and jump on rooftops and glide. And that to me just kind of reminded me of like creeping around in Blood Omen 2 as Kane, or, you know, just cool shit. Like you feel like a super powered vampire. Plus too, when you're on the street, you have to uphold the masquerade or the secret of vampire identity and vampire culture, right? So you can't super sprint and dash and triple jump on the street, or you will raise a meter and eventually just kind of die. That is kind of half baked, but what it does encourage is you to follow the rules when you're walking around on the street and lure people away to suck blood, essentially for like almost skill points. So you lure people into alleyways, you look around, you hope no one's there, and then you suck their blood. But then again, this is when it starts to really feel like a AA game or like a low budget game where you get the same animation of sucking someone's blood a million times over and the same busted NPCs. But I like that whole looking for alleyways and looking for secret areas, especially because you can duck into alleyways, look for fire escapes or a pipe to climb up. Then you get up on the rooftop and then you're free. Then you can live your vampire freak life and do awesome sprinting and jumping and gliding and all this cool shit. And it kind of makes you feel like Spider-Man when he's on like a rooftop, but like a vampire. Plus too, the game's atmosphere, again, dripping in atmosphere in this snowstorm, right? With the snow coming down, but the neon of all the streets and signs and banners all coming through, all having this kind of like comforting glow to it, that I like that. As much as I didn't like all the side quests and all that, I liked spending time in the world because it looks so freaking cool. Plus, the lonely, kind of empty, weird, surreal, you know, snowstorm-ridden streets reminded me of something very special to me. Max Payne 1. There is a kind of liminal surrealness to Max Payne 1 when you're wandering around the streets of New York City, covered in snow, nobody in sight, and it's all kind of lo-fi, like obviously the graphics then. Like I had that feel wandering around in this game. It felt kind of weird, lonely, mysterious, steeped in mood and atmosphere. It just really worked. Same with finding NPCs and talking to them, and they're all weird and eclectic. It kind of reminded me of things like, you know, like the Darkness, the original Darkness. I remember going down into those subway stations and talking to NPCs and stuff, and it feels like that. So like, I guess I'm saying also in a way, Bloodlines 2 feels kind of old. It feels a little dated in a lot of ways, but I don't mind that sometimes. And here it scratched that itch. I mean, even in moment-to-moment gameplay, when you're like creeping around, sneaking, stealth killing dudes, and then getting into hand-to-hand combat and just essentially vampire punching and vampire clawing dudes, it felt, it kind of reminded me of Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay. So the game just kind of evoked all these weird other games that I like. All those games are much better, yes, but I just found Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 to be this weird, strange, eclectic mix of genres, a flawed, interesting thing that, again, like I said at the start, I don't recommend people really playing. I recommend eventually, if you're either like a vampire freak, a vampire pervert, or a world of darkness person, definitely check it out because you'll probably get something from it. If you're just a PC gamer that loved the CRPG, you were probably pretty forgiving of that one because that one had some some issues, but just know that this one has even more. But I said it in the before you buy it, I said it now. Like I bought it, and I'm glad I played it. As fucked up and busted and weird and awkward as it is, and honestly half baked in a lot of ways, there's not a lot of games like this on the market, and I got a kick out of it. Another thing that didn't quite really hit the mark for me, but if you're looking for something to play in this spooky Halloween time, Little Nightmares 3. I also did a video on this on Game Ranks, but I haven't talked about it here yet, and I don't have too much to say about it because it didn't really live up to the first two games. This to me felt kind of like wasted co-op potential. Also, the fact that it doesn't have couch co-op made me like physically angry because we have a world where like so many games have succeeded, right? Like so many games have crushed it in the couch co-op department. It Takes Two, Split Fiction, most recently, Game of the Year winners, just selling tons of copies, and Little Nightmares 3 totally fumbled that bag, man. But where it really fumbled for me is that it just because it changed development studios, because it's not Tarsier anymore. Now it's the people who made Until Dawn and Dark Pictures Anthology. It's great that it's horror people working on it yet again, but it did not have a lot of moments that really stood out. It didn't really have that creative energy that the first two games had. It did not really keep me on the edge of my seat. It kind of just had me going with the flow, and very quickly, all the ways you would solve puzzles with your little companion just were very obvious and dull. That being said, it's another interesting thing where it's like, it was all right, but like, again, it was like 4 hours long, so I didn't really lose much out of it, and I was mildly entertained. So if you do have a co-op buddy who plays online with you, maybe lives somewhere else, then yeah, maybe give it a shot. But with that, I do also want to say I have done videos in the past every Halloween with like a Halloween costume, and I talk about games I like to play and things I like to watch in the Halloween season, and I don't want to just repeat that video over and over again. So in the link in the description down below, I talk about a lot of games that I love playing every holiday season that give me some haunted vibes. The Resident Evil... What, are you scared? What are you barking at? You good? You know, games like I mentioned before, like Blood Omen and Blood Omen 2, but like Resident Evil 1 Remake, just all kinds of stuff. So check out those videos if you want more like Jake Halloween talk listening. The only other thing I did want to talk about today is other Halloween stuff. It's been a Frankenstein year for me. For the last year, I've been hooked on like, I want to reread Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the original novel that the whole Frankenstein thing was based on. I read it as a young man, really, really enjoyed it, but I made it a mission to really track down an old copy of it. I have a bookcase, like a bookshelf, and I really wanted like a nice beat up old copy of it. And it took me a long time. I essentially, everywhere I traveled, like for the last year or so, around the world, around the country, I went into old bookstores looking for an old copy. I never found anything good enough, but I finally found one just a couple of weeks ago. Right here. This is from 1931, published months before the movie came out. The 1931 Boris Karloff Frankenstein came out. So it's like before that influence took hold. And that's what I wanted. This book is old. It's the illustrated version, technically. So every couple of pages, it's got a little bit of like kind of like an illustration, but it smells old. The pages are yellow, but this book kicks ass. I was just so excited to reread this. I wanted to reread it this holiday season, and I did. And along with that, perfect timing, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein movie got released technically in some theaters, and it's coming out on Netflix in a couple of days. But I went to go see it in a theater, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I really like Guillermo del Toro a lot. I love Pacific Rim. I love Hellboy. I fucking love Crimson Peak. Pan's Labyrinth. I'm big on him, man. But I was really excited about Frankenstein because of how outspoken he's been about horror and stuff like that. And to me, I took it as him kind of adapting Mary Shelley's novel a little bit more. But ultimately, when I watched the movie, no spoilers yet, but when I watched the movie, essentially, it was entertaining. It was really good. It was visually incredible. Some great performances. It was kind of like a great combination of someone who's clearly a nerd for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein book, but also very much a nerd for Boris Karloff's, the original 1931 Frankenstein, and then I think 1935's Bride of Frankenstein. So this movie is a combination of those three things in interesting ways. Some ways we've seen before, because Frankenstein through pop culture is just everywhere, right? So some ways we've seen before, and some ways we haven't. And I really like that. Cherry picked a couple of really interesting things from the book that I really appreciated. My only complaint is, well, a couple of things, and it's hard to go into it without spoilers, but essentially, I still want more focus on Victor Frankenstein. I think especially if you read the book, you understand how interesting that character can be, how much potential there is. And I think the movie set it up a good in the first half and then kind of squandered a lot of it. Also, Christoph Waltz's character, the whole arc, it's an interesting concept on paper, like why he would exist in this story, but it didn't really work for me. It kind of felt like a waste. Jacob Elordi as the monster, the creature, was great. I don't know about his makeup. I think when he's like in full scary mode, it's awesome, but I wish he was a little bit more grotesque. Either way, I thought he was imposing, powerful, but he also nailed some of those more like the lines that are a lot more Victorian and writerly. He nailed those bits really, really well. But also the roar of the monster and the imposing nature of him was incredible in action scenes where they let Frankenstein's monster fuck dudes up. And it all looks practical. Like it's guys on wires and stuff. Like he is throwing dudes through walls and shit. And it actually looked good. It didn't look like CGI. The movie isn't perfect with stuff like that. Like, you know, Dr. Frankenstein's tower looks like this big CGI thing, but I think it was a really good mix of styles. Mia Goth's character, unfortunately, too, I didn't really land with that, like her version of Elizabeth. I don't know. But ultimately, though, I was really thoroughly entertained. I mean, if you've seen a couple of Frankenstein things, it's like a comic book at this point. There's different interpretations. Things are going to be different every time, but that's kind of the fun, right? So I liked a lot of the stuff they did here. I love the way it ended. It had some impactful, emotional moments. It had moments that felt very just Guillermo del Toro in a lot of ways. But man, just a good time at the movies. So when it comes out on Netflix, I'd say definitely watch it. It's cool shit. And reading is good. Read Frankenstein. Maybe you had to read it in high school and you thought it was boring. Read it again as an adult. It's from 1818, so it's a rough read, but if you can pull through it, it's incredibly compelling. But that's what I got for you. Of course, I have been Geralt of Rivia from The Witcher 2. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear what you think about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, but also, more importantly, the Halloween videos I linked in the description down below. Halloween in general, I'd love to know if you watch certain movies on Halloween. I've talked about that a lot. I love watching Casper every year. I love watching Sleepy Hollow every year, the Peanuts shit, like all that stuff. I watch as much as I possibly can. So let me know if you have any Halloween rituals, if you celebrate, or if you're not and you're just a horror enthusiast. Let's talk about this stuff. Let me know what you think about Little Nightmares, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, anything. Hit me up. I want to talk. I got nobody else to talk to about this stuff. So if you've been here for a while, listen to me yap for this long, you're done folding laundry now. The video is going to end. So buckle up. Thank you for being here. Clicking the like button helps me really. Happy Halloween. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.